before you do that,
Yep.
welcome to the Mark Travis and Derek Christopher podcast. I am Derek Christopher. Of course, I am here with Mark Travis. Mark, good to see you.
I'd love it when you do that in the middle of a conversation.
I'm
In the
getting
middle
well.
of
I'm
it.
doing it.
You do
I'm
this
doing it in
all
the
the
middle of
time.
a
In the middle of a conversation, you say, we're starting a podcast and I'm not even going to tell you.
yeah. You know why? Because we're like in the middle of a conversation that's perfect for the podcast. And I think, well, shit, let's include this because
See,
so what I'm
you see what a problem I am? I wasn't even thinking that way. Okay, so here we are.
yeah.
And what are we were talking about Substack.
We were talking about Substack, and I
Yeah.
said I wonder how much value there is in Substack for the people that contribute to it. I think for the people who purchase from it or take part of it, there's value, but for the
Yes.
contributors to it, I don't know.
Well, as I was saying, it was created from what I know of what I've read about it for writers primarily.
Right.
And which is perfect for journalists, especially journalists who maybe don't have that magazine or that um, avenue to release their stuff. They can just do a substance. In other words, in a way, they're setting up their own magazine. They're setting up their own electronic magazine. And a lot of the ones that I follow, they are posting things daily
Yeah.
as journalists. And it's fascinating. Those are fascinating. Now I'm following them. What I'm following them. I'm not a coach subscribe. I'm on the list, but I haven't gone to a higher paid level at all. I know there are
Yeah.
more things I can benefit from at a higher level, but I don't need to. I'm just happy with the reading of it.
So what do you subscribe to on Substack then? What kind of content?
A lot of it's political.
Oh, okay.
Political and with Heather Cox Richardson, historical. She's
Yeah.
an amazing writer. And she'll say,
Now,
on this day 200 years ago, here's what happened. And I get a whole thing of I get a whole historical investigation in relationship to what's going on now in terms of
okay.
what's going on in the past. So it's a great history lesson.
But then you can subscribe to that, and then that's how she monetizes the content.
He has different levels, and I'm just at the non-paying level.
Right.
And I'm happy there. And I'm sure a lot of people are.
Yeah, and I think for that it works because that you're educating yourself and you're getting a context of information and history that you normally may not be able to get. But I always wonder for people in TV or film, what's the value? Because at least from what I've seen on Substack, it's a lot of people who shouldn't be teaching. It's a lot of people that shouldn't be instructing anybody how to write or how to pitch or how to sell.
Yeah.
And if you don't know any better and you're subscribing to these people, you might as well just get a big lighter and burn your money because what's the value of it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
question.
why I always
Good question.
Yeah, that's why I always wonder, Film Courage on YouTube has been around forever. You've done videos in the past, Michael Haig and Chris Vogler and John Truby.
Yep.
And they've got an amazing library of content that they don't charge for. It's all on YouTube.
Right.
Which is amazing. And I've always thought that's an interesting way of doing it, that they've never, at least that I've seen, they've never made any effort to create a subscription model or monetize it any differently other than the ad revenue that they get from YouTube.
Yeah, it's mainly the ad revenue through YouTube because
Yeah.
of their great following. But that has to do with numbers. They have to keep their numbers high.
Yes.
Which means they have to keep feeding the beast. And I don't know how often David and Karen put out new stuff, but to keep the viewership high.
Yeah.
So that they get the revenue, the ad revenue. But yes, it's all through ad revenue. It's not through subscription, although they could easily design it.
Right.
Which they could have with those. They did those 2 or 3 master classes. And I talked to Pamela J. Smith about her master class, which she loved doing. And I can understand why, but that was something new within Film Courage. And they could have said, okay, let's put that on behind a paywall. Behind a paywall, you can get these master classes. If they kept going that would be a way to monetize it.
I did this for Robert McKee. I'm going back to 2009 when we created something called StoryLogue, which is, do you remember StoryLogue?
I remember, yeah.
Yeah,
very well.
And so my idea was that Bob would do an original lesson I can't remember what it was. I think it was maybe every month. And in between, we would offer, what I would do is I would bring a camera to the seminars. And at the breaks, I would have people ask questions. And they could ask anything they wanted. They could ask multiple questions. And then I'd go to Bob's place in Sedona for a couple of days and we would shoot all of his answers. We edit them all together. And that was sort of the content in between the lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super cool. But again, it goes back to, we never sort of reached that threshold of subscribers that we thought we should have, because it was great content, and it was content you couldn't get anywhere else. And maybe we were just ahead of our time, because this is literally 2009, 2010, I
Mm-hmm.
think, before people started really monetizing video content.
Right. Right.
And I think Bob still has StoryLogue up. You can go on storylog.com, LOGUE,
Yeah.
and it's still there. But it was fun, and Bob put a lot of work into it. And the one thing I always remember about Bob, that somebody would ask a question, and I would have no idea what they were asking, but somehow Bob could lock in with his laser, and he knew exactly what they were answering. And but by the time he answered it, I go, okay, now I understand what the question was. But you do the same. John Truby does the same. And this goes back to what I've been saying for the last 25 years. There's a very rarefied air of people in that realm, that ballpark, that can answer questions like that. And so when I see, sometimes I look at Film Courage and I go, I don't even know who these people are. Why are they answering questions?
Well, yeah, I mean, also with Film Courage, because they chop it up into little pieces, which is fine. You
Yeah.
go on, and I go, who is this person? I have to look somewhere down below the clip to see who it is that's
Yeah.
talking. And even with that, I don't know, okay, who, yeah, okay, this person is talking about. What have they done that would be of significance to me? So you're right. It's sort of a vague um,
You have to chop it up,
thing.
because you know what the average attention span is? How many seconds that somebody will watch a video for is now?
No, it's going to be horrible, but go ahead.
37 seconds.
37.
37 seconds. If they haven't gotten what they
That
want out
means
of it,
most of the people watching you and me right now has just left.
they tuned out. That's why I keep cutting them into shorts. But I will say,
Wow.
some of our shorts that have been a minute, 2 minutes, and whatnot have actually performed well, which means we're saying something right. So, but I think the whole monetizing content, MasterClass spends millions and millions and millions of dollars advertising, getting Ron Howard, getting whoever, Salman Rushdie, getting all these major names. But then you can buy a subscription during the holidays for $100 and have access to everything.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make money if you're spending millions of dollars for your talent and marketing? How many $100 subscriptions do you have to sell to break even?
Right. A lot, a lot. And then
Yeah.
and then you has as competition, the TED Talks, which are free.
Yeah.
You just type in TED Talk and you can go through a whole list of topics. Now they're short,
Yeah.
but they're good. That's just another delivery system, which is
Yeah.
not monetized in any way that I know of.
And I think everybody's trying to figure out, especially in the TV film
Yeah.
realm, how to monetize their content, because a lot of people aren't teaching anymore. They're not going out on the road like they used to. And it would be a shame for that content to just disappear.
So what do we do?
Well, I told this to McKee forever. I said, film, and we actually did. We filmed his entire 3-day seminar in New York in 2005. And it's a fantastic piece of footage. I mean, it's his entire 3-day, 30+ hour seminar.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never understood why he hasn't released it. I tried to get him to push it. I said, let's put it out on DVD. This was like 2008, 2009. Let's put it on DVD when people still bought DVDs. But I think he thought it was going to take away from people coming to the live class.
Yeah, but so would the book.
Well, so would the book. And, I use the same example now that I used back then. I said, Bob, people buy the Elton John concert DVD. They still go see Elton John in concert because it's a different experience. Yeah. I don't think anybody's figured it out yet.
No, and as you and I have talked in the past, we're on a cusp now. But this is what you brought up. With everything changing, so many things are changing. the whole world
Yeah.
with AI and all of that, and with what COVID did, and now Zoom, and people aren't traveling as much to go to,
Right.
I remember one Story Expo, I was there and I met all these people from South Africa who had flown in from South
Yeah.
Africa to go to, well, I don't think that's happening anymore.
No. Yeah. The South African Writers Guild had sent 40 people. And
Yeah.
here's something you couldn't do in today's political environment. I would write letters to the government of South Africa because they needed letters of invitation from Story Expo. So I would have to write individual letters inviting them to come to Story
Wow.
Expo. I
And
don't
for
think you could
each person.
for each person. But the Writers Guild were so great. I mean, they went. In fact, they told me that there were only two conferences that they would send their people to, which was Story Expo and then to NatP. And I thought, all right, if we're in the same company as NatP, we're doing pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Now those people probably couldn't visit,
No.
which is a shame because they gained so much by being here. The people here gained so much by meeting them and talking to them,
Hmm.
and there were people that made deals with the writers in South Africa to co-produce things and whatnot. And it's like, you're going to lose all that when you shut down the borders like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's another whole political side of
That's a
this,
whole other political thing. Yeah.
which is huge. And I
This
guess,
actually, go ahead.
no, yeah, in terms of what you and I were talking about before you decided this was a podcast, when I was talking about my 5 week trip, which had to be canceled for medical reasons.
Yeah.
But where I was going to be consulting on 3 different films, and that what I'm doing, ironically, that thrust me once again into how can I do what I used to do in person? How can I do it on Zoom? How can I use the technology that we've got to achieve the same goals? Which means um, I have to look at it, which is really good. I have to look at it all in a different way.
Yeah.
And what this has led to, because these are three productions who wanted my services doing workshopping the entire film with actors and all that before they go into pre-production even. And ironically, which I don't think I've shared with, maybe I have, this shift, even before the medical emergency and cancellation and all that, this shift was happening within me, is that I started to look at what I was doing, what I was teaching, and I realized, okay, there's another book coming. There's another book. So I'm starting another book. I mean,
That's great.
this is the way every book starts. This is
Yeah.
it. Um, and which is all about staging. All it is about the power of staging, and which is huge. Anyway, but I guess what I'm getting at is what you and I are doing in our world of trying to help, to educate, to inspire those writers, directors, and stuff out there. With the changing landscape in the front of us, we have to change. We have to change what we're doing.
Okay. But this is where I was going to say, but this is where you're very different because you really embrace technology. You're not afraid of technology, and you're not just using it as a vessel to transmit information. You're using it to break new ground. And I'm going to show some, as I talk about this, I'm going to show, I took some screenshots of when you did the test with Sean Cunningham and the actors and whatnot of what you were working on for a new class you're developing.
Hmm.
That was incredible. I mean, that was amazing. I mean, you did not even have to be in the same room to accomplish what you were doing. And that's when it gets exciting because you're doing something new with it. You're doing something different and you're doing something of value. You're not just regurgitating a book. You're not just regurgitating information. And that's where it becomes exciting.
Thank you. That clip you're talking about was Sean Cunningham. Was that the tech
Yes.
test? Okay.
Yes.
We're really testing all the technology that we have to make something work. And it is working and it will work. And although there's still more work that needs to be done on that aspect of it. But since then, Derek, and the
Yeah.
cancellation of my trip, Sean Cunningham is one of the people that I was going to consult with. And He's a director. He directed
Yeah.
Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah,
And
huge.
but he's not directing this particular film. A guy named Jeremy Weiss is actually directing it, and Sean is one of the producers of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're doing what you saw. I'm doing that with them, with that producer, that director, and a bunch of actors. The big difference between what you saw is we're not doing it for a viewing audience of people online.
No.
It's actually done privately. I'd like to send you a video of one of the sessions we did where I'm here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
They're in Encino,
Yeah.
outside Sean's house in the gazebo. They're using the gazebo as their stage area, which works
Yeah.
very, very, very well. And I can show you, I think you'd find interesting, but please don't share this because it has to do with intellectual property and all that.
Right.
But just for you to see, um, Jeremy and I and Sean had a long discussion about a scene prior to Jeremy actually trying to rehearse the scene with actors.
Yeah.
So we get ourselves focused on what the scene is, blah blah blah, all that stuff, all the basic stuff that you need to go through, and then Jeremy alone goes and works with the actors, and then
Yeah.
when they're ready, for me, they contact me. Okay, Mark, we're ready. I go online, and
Yeah.
there they are with the actors still,
With the
and
three different camera shots.
no, it was one camera.
Oh, it was one camera on this one.
Yeah, we made it simpler. We had
Yeah.
two, but we only used one. Um, in fact, the one that we used was the iPhone. The iPhone.
Right.
The iPhone was just on a little stand, and it was just looking at like theater. Anyway,
Yeah.
it worked. It worked fine.
Yeah.
As long as nobody goes out of frame, I'm fine. And
Right.
then so I'm brought in when the actors are ready. Everybody's ready. And
Yeah.
basically then they just run the scene for me.
Yeah.
Run the scene, and then now you'll hear in that, which is actually this is why I want to send it to you. You'll hear Jeremy. I don't think you ever see him. You see mostly the actors,
Yeah.
and you may see Sean a little bit, but you'll hear my discussion with Jeremy about the scene, what he thinks, and we're talking about the scene, and my suggestions, and then a little bit of a discussion with the actors, and then the point where I say, okay, I have some idea. I think I gave him some ideas. He tried something, didn't really work.
Yeah.
Then I go to, okay, let me. Um, I'm going to restage the scene, and I'll explain. I think I said I'll explain to you what I'm doing as I go step by step through the whole scene.
Yeah.
And that is my favorite part is when I'm literally walking the actors through the scene. I said, we're going to walk through the scene slowly. I don't care about performances. But on this line, go to here. This is where I want you to, this is where I want you to sit. Okay, back up a little bit. Do that again. So they're walking through the staging, right?
Well, that's what you did on the example that I saw when you
Yeah,
had the three different iPhones set up.
yeah, yeah.
That
And then
that you were directing where the cameras go, where the actor should be. You were having them rehearse. You
yeah,
were doing everything that you would do if you were there in person.
everything. Yeah. And this
Yeah.
I did it with just one camera, which was,
One
and
camera.
then because the one camera was good enough, they asked me if I needed another one. And I said, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
First of all, dyslexia helps a lot. I was going to say helps a lot because
Hmm.
I know what the other angles look like. I can imagine them anyway. But then once I walked them through it, I said, run the scene again. Well, the
Yeah.
scene just suddenly went to a
Took
whole
off.
new level. Now that's, sort of, that's the process. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to refine. And that actually leads into the test that you saw, because that's in terms of the larger program that I'm working on,
Yeah.
which I need to get back to sometime. But now I'm really busy with consulting on 3 films. So
Sure.
I'm a little, and writing a book. So I'm a little busy at the moment.
But it was really just sort of amazing to watch the process because I was tuned in and I was just watching you direct from 2,500 miles away
Yeah.
and how effective it was and the results that came. But again, this goes back to the fact that you know what you're doing. You've got the experience, you've got the knowledge, and so you
Hmm.
can do it. If you had a first time, directing coach or whatnot, they could pull that off.
No, I mean, it's really, you're right. And the reason I know you're right, being a member of the Directors Guild and having demonstrated a lot of these staging techniques at the Directors Guild,
Yeah.
um, and which is actually where I first met Sean during one of those.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and some of these very well-known directors who have done major films being actually blown away by what I can do. And I go,
Yeah.
but my naive perspective on this, Derek, is because I come from theater. Theater, that's all I've got is staging. I don't have
Yeah.
cameras. I don't have,
Yeah.
so I've developed over the years of directing a lot of theater, understand staging. It's not that I was taught better. I just kept whatever. And so, but I'm sort of amazed that these film directors don't understand the basic concepts of how staging works and how staging can work for you
Yeah.
and also against you. And then this is also what the whole book is about. So I'm a little bit like McKee there, who writes a whole book on dialogue.
Right.
I'm doing a whole book on staging.
Yeah.
Um, so, but you're right. There's a lot of people who just don't get it.
Right.
And I'm aware now there's some good friends who are major directors
Yeah.
and major films that I haven't done, that they keep coming back to me for help.
Yeah.
Can you tell me?
Yeah.
Show me how to do this. I
Yeah.
said, I showed you before. I showed you, you took that class I did. You learn? Okay, I guess
But
it didn't stick.
But you know what, Mark? They come back because they're drinking from the well. This is you would have major screenwriters who would come to McKee's class, and I would ask them. I go, you've written three big hits. Why are you here? They said every time they're working on a new project, they come back because it sparks new ideas. And I think it's the exact same thing with you. They
Yeah,
come back to you because you're sparking new ideas. You're reigniting that creativity, and that's what they need.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
everybody needs.
yep, yep. But that's
So
what getting back to you and I and what we're doing. That's what I want us to be offering
yeah, yeah,
again and again. Whether it's just you and I on a podcast, you and I interviewing somebody else, whatever we're doing to fill some of that gap.
yeah.